Hi everyone, thank you for checking out my video about how to stretch your assessments with Edulastic. My name is Christy Nichols. I am a second grade math teacher at Cavazos. This is going to be my fourth year with ECISD, my fourth year at Cavazos, and my third year as a Techie Tribe ambassador. And I am super excited to help you learn about Edulastic. I think it's an awesome tool. My email address, if you have any questions or just want to get in touch with me, is christy.nichols@ectorcountyisd.org. So Edulastic is a great way to easily build assessments for your classroom. The first thing I'm going to do is give you an overview of Edulastic, and next I'll show you some of the features, and then finally I'll show you how to build an assessment. So first, let's take a quick look at Edulastic. You can use it for primarily three different things. You can use it to instruct. You can create assignments or find resources in the library. You can use it to assess. You can search the library for TEKS-based questions and or tests, or you can build your own. And you can use it to measure. You get instant data to measure the mastery of standards. So looking at these a little bit more closely, when you get into Edulastic and you start looking at the library, everything is called an assessment. However, you can use the questions or the tests as pre-tests to see what your kids already know. You can use them for independent work after you've delivered your lesson, and then you can go back and either use the same assessments or new ones to do your final assessment for mastery of the skills. My favorite part, though, is the data. You get so much data. So using Edulastic as an instructional tool, you can create differentiated assignments. The library is searchable by specific TEKS, or you can create your own assignments. So when you go in, you will be able to look. You'll click on this little button here. This is just a screenshot of what it looks like and what we're going to get into a little bit later. So you click on this. This is the item bank. So it's going to give you individual questions. When you put in your grade and your subject, you can also choose which standard set you want. So obviously we're going to choose the TEKS for the appropriate subject. You'll be able to look for certain standards, or you can just look for all of the standards for your subject. So what I did on this one, I searched for just the ELA TEKS for grade 2. And you can see on here that it tells you which TEK it addresses specifically. So this one is 2.5B. It's a passage and it has a multiple choice question. I like this right here. It's Edulastic certified. So it's going to be maybe a little bit better quality question than something somebody just, spent 2 minutes on. So you'll be able to choose the questions you want to do. You can look at them before you add them. Or you can, if you really like the question and you trust it, you can just go ahead and click that plus button. I do like to view them beforehand just so I know what my students are going to see. So the next thing that you can look at is how you sort them. You can sort them by popularity. I believe newest is one of them. So as you click the plus signs, it's going to go onto the new test. And once you're finished, once you have the questions that you want, then you will be able to click on that and assign it. Or to create your own questions, you'll click up here on new item. And we'll go into that a little bit more later on. You can also use it as an assessment tool. When you have just delivered your lesson and you want the kids to do their independent work. If you're doing a small group and you need them working on something, you can give them this to do. So you can see who got the lesson and who didn't. Then later on, you can do it as an assessment. You can again differentiate the assessments. Again, the library is searchable by specific TEKs. You can create your own. There's a lot of different types of questions, and you can assess student mastery of individual TEKs. So this is one of the tests that's already created, and I actually assigned it to myself on my personal email, so I'll show you the data for that and what it looks like a little bit later on. So what I did was look for specific standards this time. I looked for 2.6a and 2.6b, and this addressed 2.6a and 2.6b. So it came up as a choice that I was able to click on and assign. You can use it as a mastery tool. You can look at what your students have learned and what they still need to work on. So you get instant data based on the individual questions. You can track the student progress, you can track the class progress, and you can view the results of the assessments. You can look at the results by question, by standard, by student, or by class, which is really handy when you're trying to decide whether to reteach in a small group or if you need to reteach whole group, or if, however you need to go back over some of the material. And it may also be that they just didn't understand the way the question was presented. Maybe you just need to go back and alter that a little bit. So when I look at the results based on standards, when my student did the test, all of the questions, or the one question for 2.6a showed mastery. She got that one right. On 2.9b, which is not one that I searched for specifically, so it may not have been one that I addressed in class, but there were 4 questions based on that TEK. She only got half of them right. Over here on this side, when you click on each standard, I didn't mean to do that. If you click on the standard, then it's going to come up over here to show the student performance. And I'm the only person that joined my class, so I'm the only student on there. When you have more students, obviously they'll show up here. You'll be able to look at who mastered, who didn't, and their performance. You can then click on a different TEK and see the data for that one as well. I also like that it gives you the beginning of the TEK, what the TEK is. So, because I'm sure very few of us have every single TEK memorized for every single subject that we teach. So that gives us a little reminder. If you look at the live class board and look at who has finished, this will aggregate your data to show you the class results or the individual results. So you can click on the student name and you can look at the average score, the median score. It'll show you how many got it correct, how many got it incorrect or partially correct, how much time they spent on each question. You can print the results. You can redirect the assessment if you need to have certain students retake it to try again. You can do that from here. So the next thing we're going to do, I did not mean to do that yet. So let's actually look at Edulastic. When you first go to the website, it's just edulastic.com. You're going to join for free. So all you have to do is decide as a teacher, as an admin, as a student. So most of us are going to be as teacher. I've already created my account. So I'm just going to log in. And it's easy. It's just a Google login. So you're going to want to use your ECISD.school account. I'm sure last year everybody got very, very familiar with those accounts. And I've already created a few practice classes, but we're going to go ahead and look at this one because I have data created in this one already. So I can click on this. This is the one that I had the screenshot of the data, so we can look at it a little bit closer. I have sent it back to the student, so I can hover over that and it'll tell me when I sent it back to the student to try again. You can also look at the standards-based report, and then you can adjust the settings if you need to, which we'll look at that in just a little while. So let's first look at the item bank, since we've got to create an assessment or an assignment before we can look at the data for it. So I want to look at second grade ELA, ELAR, and I want to look at the TEKS. What I really think is cool is that you can search for specific standards. So you can look up which TEKS you really want to assess. So if I go down to, let's see if there are any questions in here. For 2.10. There aren't. So if there are no questions for the TEK that you want, you can create a new item, which we'll look at a little bit later on, but I do want to try to find one that has the TEKs already on there. Okay, so let's look for a different one. Let's look for, I want to click to pop out. There we go, because this way I can read and see what the actual TEK is. So let's look and see if there's one for 2.13. And there are a few. So you can look at the question, and it says, what is the first question says, what is the author's primary theme or message of the passage? Well, I can't see the passage. I don't know if that's a question I want to use. So I'm going to click view, and it's going to give me a preview. I can read over the passage, and then I can look here. And I like that question, so I can either add that or I can close that. I can look at the other questions that are in this and see, maybe I want to add all of the items. And you know what? It looks like those are going to be pretty good questions. So I'm just going to add all 15 items. And then I'm going to, you can also clear your choice. To remove current item, I want to go ahead and add them all. I want to clone it so that I can do the assignment for myself. So I want to look at my layout and grading. How do I want to do it? Do I want it all in a single column? Do I want the 30-70 split, 70-30? I want to do it just a 50-50 split, which is what it already is. And how do I want to use the tabs? I'm okay just leaving that the way it is. If I want to, I can add a new item to the passage, or I can add a new part to it. So I'm going to save it. I can also go into preview mode so I can see what it looks like and look at the depth of knowledge is just recall, the difficulty level is medium, and the standard it addresses is 2.3b. I can go to each question and look at the same information, the different standards that each one addresses. I can check the answers. I can answer the questions, check them, make sure they're correct, or I can just go ahead and show the answer and make sure that it's going to be good. So I'm going to save it and publish. When I'm ready to assign it, I'm going to go over here. This little, it looks like a clipboard with a plus sign is the assignments tab. I'm going to click that, and it shows all the assignments that you have going on. So there's the one that I already had, and then I'm going to add the new assignment. So I'm going to browse, and I want to look for the one that all right, for some reason, that one that we just did, there we go. So I want to add that. And click on New Test. And then I'm going to enter the test name. And a short description, however you want to do that. And then I can add tags if I would like to. I can add items if I want. I can review it. This is where I can view it as a student. So you can look at it and make sure that you are happy with what your students are going to see. They'll scroll down on this side, and then their question will be on the right, and then they'll go to the next question. For this one, the passage is going to stay in the same spot. They can also have it read to them. You can give them that option. They can click the play button, and it will read to them. If you have something that, if you have dyslexia students and they need the filters, you can change the color, the background, medium gray on light gray, or you can change the zoom if you have vision impaired students. And you can kind of see it in the background before you actually change it. So I'm pretty happy with that. So we're going to exit, and we're going to assign. So when I assign it, I'm going to choose the class that I assign it to, and we're just going to send it to the practice class. If I want to send it to certain students, I can. If generally you're going to want to have more than one student in your class. Right now, that's the only student I have, so that's kind of silly to send to just one. So I'm just going to send it to all students. You can choose when to open it, when to close it. You can have it start automatically on the start date, or you can open it manually in class. If you have a certain time that obviously we all have our schedules. If you don't want them working on it before you teach the lesson, then you might want to set it to manually open, and you can set the close the same way, either automatically or close manually. The test behavior, you can choose whether it's an assessment or a practice assessment. So this is where it comes into the instruction versus assess. What I usually do is, if I want the kids working on it for me to see if they understood the lesson, or if I'm doing it as a pre-test, I will set it as a practice assessment. And then at the end of the unit, when I'm actually doing the assessment, I set it as the class assessment. You can choose whether you want the kids to see their results or not. I'm going to go ahead and let them see their scores and their responses and the correct answers, because we want them learning from their mistakes, right? And we can always reassess with similar questions. We don't have to send the exact same test back or the same assignment. We can, to give them another try, or we can redo the questions. So you can also choose how to give credit. Either it's all or nothing. You can do partial credit, and it explains over onto the side the different, how they define each. Partial credit, don't penalize for incorrect selection or consider item level evaluation. If it has the little dollar sign, that's a premium feature, which I personally am not paying for. They're amazing features and I would love to have them, but they're not necessary. They're really cool, but they're not necessary. When everything is set the way you want it, you just click on Assign. And then it will tell you where everything is, that your kids can go ahead and start working on it. And I can monitor the student progress and responses using the live class board. So if I click here to navigate to the live class board, this is where it shows me who is working on it, who is not working on it yet, and what they're getting right, how much time they're spending on each question, on average, the class. So it's pretty cool that you can actually watch in real time how your students are doing on the assignment. When they're finished, it shows you all the TEKs like we looked at earlier, and it tells you which questions are applied to which TEKs and how the student's mastery is going. Okay, so just to see how the live class board works, I have started the test on my iPad as a student. So I'm going to just start answering the questions, and we'll be able to see right there already. You're seeing exactly what your students are doing as they are answering. So let's see. And you can see that your students going through there pretty quick. And you maybe need to check on how they're answering some of the questions, because there may be some vocabulary problems. It may be a problem that is with spelling. There are some spelling questions in this one. Number 11 has 2 answers, so I'm just going to choose one and I'm just going to just fly through the rest. There's a question that has to be, the student has to actually write the answer in. So it tells you on here which questions were skipped, which ones were correct, which ones were incorrect, and which ones, there will be some that are manually graded because they were questions where the student had to type the answer. Christy did not do so well on this. You can look and see what her responses were when you click on View Responses, which we looked at earlier. So you can see how she answered the questions. And like I said, you can see whether it might be an inference problem. Maybe the student doesn't understand how to infer. Maybe they don't understand a vocabulary word. Grammar is in this one. So you can look at all these different things for each student. See, this one, she didn't read the question carefully. It has, you're supposed to choose 2 answers. So she not only chose the wrong answer, she didn't choose 2. So you can regrade if you think the question wasn't a good question, or if you want to give partial credit, however you want to do that. You can change how they did. So I think it's really cool that you can actually see in real time how your students are answering the question on each assessment. Okay, so finally, we are going to look at how to create our own items and tests. So I want to create a new question, and it gives me all of the choices, what kind of question I want to create. Do I want a multiple choice, fill in the blank, classify, match, and order, writing, passages, all different kinds, all the way down to math, graphing, charts. And you can also record verbal instructions. You can give a multi-part question. So let's do a fill in the blank. And it shows you all the different kinds of fill in the blank that you can do. You can have them drag and drop. You can do a text box that drops down. You can have them type in the answer. You can do labeling. This is great for social studies. If I know 2nd grade, we have to label the continents. So you might want to have them drag and drop, or do a drop down, or have them type it in for the older kids. So math, it's there. You can do editing questions. So let's just do a drag and drop. So I'm going to put in the question as, let's see, Okay, so I've added a drag and drop. So my question is, a blank becomes a butterfly. And the choices I put in were caterpillar, earthworm, and centipede. If I want to add a 4th choice, I can. And this will show me how the students will see it. You can show the drag handle, you can shuffle, all sorts of different things. So then I might want to go to preview mode and see how the kids are going to see that. So there we go. A caterpillar becomes a butterfly. Check your answer. And then we can go to the metadata and we can select our DOK, which is just recall, difficulty level. That one's a pretty easy question. Blooms, it's going to be remember. And then we save it. It's saved as a draft, so now I just need to publish it. I didn't put a standard on there, so maybe I need to do a standard. That was a science question, so I'm going to switch to the science standards. And I'm going to do the TEKS. I'm going to look at the standards. And I can browse. And when I browse, that pop-up is going to come up with all the standards. So I want to switch this to grade 2. And look for any standard. There's that. Oh. So let's, where was it? 210. Organisms and 210C. So we're going to apply that standard and save it. And then I'm going to publish. So now it'll be in there so I can see it. Authored by me. And this has all of the other questions that from the reading test that we did and other things that I've done with while I was playing around. And where did my caterpillar question go? And there it is at the top. I did have to go out and then go back into it. So it did show up, and it tells you what kind of question it is. So there you go. When you are creating a test and you want to create a new test, you can create from scratch or you can create from a PDF. So let's just create a test, and it's going to be the same way that you created the item, the individual question. You're just going to add more of them, and you'll do the same thing, publish or save and then publish. So I think that Edulastic is a really awesome tool that is going to be incredibly helpful to everyone who has to give assessments to their students. Which obviously we all do. We can do it on a daily basis. There's so many questions in here that you can, just after school when you're prepping for the next day or on a Sunday when you're prepping for the next week, just go through and find a few questions that you can use as an exit ticket or as a pre-assessment. Maybe look for a little test that you can do as individual work while you are with your small groups, and have, make sure your students are able to get to Edulastic. You might want to give them a link. If you're K2, put it in Seesaw. If you're 312, put it in Schoology once we are using that next year. And you can pin it so that they'll always have access to it and they'll be able to find their assignments easily. There is a playground area. If you click on this little rocket down here, it does give you a playground, but let me give you a warning. I got very excited playing in the playground the other day because there were all these super cool things that you could do, all kinds of things you could look at. And as it turned out, a lot of the things were the premium features. So be aware that when you are practicing in the playground, it does give you access to the premium features. But when you go back to your free account, you won't be able to do those same things. But over here, you can practice making your assignments, making your new questions, making your new tests, looking at your, you can practice looking at the data. They've already got classes set up here, the assignments. So you're able to look at everything you need to see in that playground. So then you can go back and be a little bit more comfortable when you are working on your own, and just go back to your dashboard and check out everything you've got going on. When you create a class, I don't remember if we talked about this. You'll put in the name of your class, which I've done several times. So you'll save your class. Oh, I've already got one named that. So let's save that. And to add your students, you can either add them manually, where you'll give them a username, put in their real name, give them a password, and you can add extra information like their student number, if they have an IEP, if they're in ELL, if they're in special ed, all sorts of things, birthday, gender. You can add them that way. You can add multiple students using their ECISD.school email accounts, or you can give them the class code that it provides you. It's really easy. They'll have easy access to their assignments, and it takes a lot of effort off of your plate. It's pretty quick to put these assessments together, to do a quick little exit ticket, all of those kinds of things. So I hope that this has been helpful to you and useful for you to learn about Edulastic. And I hope it's going to be a great tool for you in the coming year. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you watching the video and learning about Edulastic with me. Have a great day.